Joining us for a little bit is Mr. Ryan Berni with the organization Fairness for Fantasy Sports in Louisiana. Hey, Ryan, welcome to KEEL. How you doing?
Thanks, Robert. Good to be on.
So, Fairness for Fantasy Sports in Louisiana. What is that organization? What do you do? What do you represent? What's your stance?
Yeah, look, we're a group of fans, but also supported by the industry that's looking to support the proposition that's on the ballot on Tuesday. Fantasy sports is allowed in 41 other states. We're behind the ball on this, and so not only from just a simple matter of people should be able to do what they want for entertainment on their smartphones, but also we're losing out on potential revenue opportunities and fan experience. And so there's been tens of thousands of sports fans and fantasy sports fans who for the last several years have tried to advance bills at the legislature, finally got something that was put on the ballot. And so we really think it's important that people be able to spend their money as they see fit, including on fantasy sports, and vote yes on Tuesday on the proposition.
Now, your organization is Fairness for Fantasy Sports. I infer from that something's been unfair. What's unfair?
Well, I mean, frankly, that there are millions of fans in 41 other states who participate, and that the fantasy sports fans in Louisiana should be treated the same way.
You had mentioned in the email that you sent me yesterday, specifically, you wanted to talk about a little bit about geo-fencing. And when we talked to Ronnie Jones from the Gaming Control Board, the commissioner yesterday, he made it sound like a big deal. Not that it's difficult to implement, but just that as of right now, the state doesn't really have a plan to implement a parish-by-parish plan.
And we don't know who's going to pay for it.
Well, I don't know that that's 100% true. I would never contradict Chairman Jones, recognized widely in this industry and for his long service to state police. But what I would say is right now the companies do the geofencing. They do it in every other state where there are state boundaries where they have to cross. Right now in Louisiana, for example, you can't play fantasy sports like they do in the other 41 states on the major websites and smartphone apps because the companies have geofenced it so that Louisiana does not play. They will continue to be the ones to pay for it and do it. What the state has to do on their side to ensure additional compliance, I think that's maybe the question that Chairman Jones was referencing. But in terms of who pays for the geofence, the companies pay for the geofence and will continue to when it's legalized.
Now, he had said to us, he had said to us yesterday that there's not really, because it hasn't passed, they don't know what parishes will be in play and what won't. That there's not
correct.
Really a statewide plan in play for this geo-fencing, and yet you seem to think they might be a little further along than they're letting on, right?
Well, again, the state has its own things that it has to do for enforcement, and I can't speak to that. What I can say is that right now, the reason why you're not able to play in Freeport or Bossier, but across the state line in Arkansas, you can play, is because the companies geofence people out from playing in Louisiana. And so if you pulled up FanDuel or DraftKings app today, you would not be able to play like they do in Arkansas with the for money contest.
Now,
because they've done it on themselves, and that's just the way it works in all the other parishes. Now, sports betting, which is a little bit different and a much longer, different conversation, they may have to do some additional things for that. But for the fantasy apps, this is how it's done everywhere, is that the companies pay.
Talking to Ryan Berni, you are with Fairness for Fantasy Sports, a Louisiana PAC, correct?
Yes. It's a 501c4.
FanDuel and DraftKings donated $1 million to your PAC. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
What is that money being used for? Are you promoting this? Is that the sole reason, your sole purpose for using this money?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that it's really important that people know about the proposition on Tuesday. It is, certainly sports fans have played fantasy forever. It's one of these things, just like how we transport around or, other matters of our lives, things have evolved. Fantasy's gone from, a bunch of guys in a garage, drafting stuff on a whiteboard to moving online to now, the way it's played today with lineups and public and private leagues, and so we're educating people about what fantasy sports really is about and why it's important for people to vote yes, and that there are thousands of people who are playing the free version of it, but Louisiana is seeing no benefit from that in terms of tax revenue. And then, of course, just the basic fairness matter, which is why, if in 41 other states can you do it, why can't you do it here in Louisiana? And why, frankly, is the government in a position to tell people what they can or cannot do for entertainment on their smartphone?
Ryan, Louisiana Family Forum's against it. Their big objection, they say that fantasy sports are too accessible to minors. Your response to that?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to get into back and forth with the Family Forum, but what I would say is that age verification has worked in other states. This has been an issue that's obviously not unique to Louisiana, and it's been verified by states' attorneys generals in other places. They have age verification on software, just like a lot of websites do, because you put a credit card in. There's, just additional layers of age verification that, frankly, is much more sophisticated than old forms. And so I don't think that's an issue.